everyone. So I wasn't going to do a reading today. I'm doing some back end stuff on the channel today, and but I got a little ping. So I laid out some cards, and I think I know what's going on here. So we're going to take a look at this. So here, we're going to read this both two ways, okay? We're reading it going down, and then we're going to read it going this way, okay? So the first thing that's coming to me as I'm getting pinged is the up and down, up and down, up and down. And usually when I get an energy that's like up and down like that, it means that there's a need for balance. And that is the bottom card here. And I'm sure that a balance card will come out again. We even have the Two of Pentacles down here. So there's a need for balance here and some sort of emotional space for the collective that I'm reading for. And so that I don't waste people's time, I'm going to tell you right now that this is definitely for an empath collective. If you don't know what an empath is, it's somebody who feels other people's emotions. I'm not going to go into saying that this is a psychic empath collective, because when I kind of differentiate between empath and psychic empathy. Usually when people say empath, what they really mean is they mean sympathy. So I feel for you, I feel hurt because you're hurt. Psychic empathy is where a person states a way, will feel a way that you don't even know, and then you can tell that they feel that way. You start to feel it, and it's usually very confusing for someone to navigate that terrain because they don't know how to differentiate between their own feelings and that of someone else's. I'm not necessarily speaking to that collective, though you certainly may be part of this reading if that's you. This is more somebody who they just have this sort of like bleeding heart energy where they're always being sympathetic towards other people and all of that. I think it's all encompassed in this reading. So what I see here is I have the Five of Pentacles. There's something we're trying to leave behind. This Five of Pentacles is really striking me almost like that Eight of Cups. It's not really striking me with the typical Five of Pentacles energy, which is feelings of abandonment. That certainly could be someone's story. But we seem to be trying to leave something behind. And then we go into the Hierophant and Knight of Pentacles. This tells me that we're trying to leave something behind, and this is part of some sort of lesson that we've been learning, but it's been a very slow lesson, okay? And this is in regards to our empathic abilities, and so we'll get to that. Here, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing this sort of back and forth seesaw action, like having a hard time balancing what's me, what's you, or having a hard time balancing what's the correct action, did I do the right thing, even energies being exchanged here. So again, it may branch into that psychic empath collective. I'm just not isolating it to that. There's heartbreak that's involved in this particular situation. So whatever it is that we're trying to leave behind is something that caused a great deal of heartbreak, because the Three of Swords is sitting right beneath this Five of Pentacles, which is indicating that this is what we're trying to leave behind. This energy of always being brokenhearted, of always being hurt. For some of you, of always having anxiety, okay? And here what we have is we have the Queen of Pentacles. And this is how I knew that I was speaking to like an empath collective, because most people would consider the Queen of Cups the empath. I actually consider the Queen of Cups very emotional, but it's the Queen of Pentacles that's always taking care of everyone around her. She's very concerned with the 3D, right, external, whereas the cup is very internal. So that's why I read it that way. Now, she's pointing back to this Three of Swords. So this is really where the reading begins, okay? So one of the energies that I'm getting in as I tuned in when I first laid these cards out is that in this empath collective, there's a little bit of a perspective shift that needs to take place, because I'm speaking to an empath who I'm gonna say something, and I don't mean it in the negative context. I mean it in the context of progression. I'm speaking to an immature empath, and what I mean by that isn't like it's a character flaw. I mean like immature in the context of you haven't learned how to contain and use appropriately this ability, okay? And one of the things that I'm seeing is that someone is struggling constantly with these feelings of being hurt, or these Three of Swords. And so this is why the perspective change kind of needs to come in. Remember, it's sitting directly underneath both the the Hierophant and then the Knight of Pentacles, which is a slow lesson. And so this is why we're going to give this perspective a little bit. People tend to think, when they think of empaths, whichever camp you resonate with, whether you're a psychic empath or you're the empath that means that you're just really sympathetic with people, and so you feel things deeply. There is this tendency to view that as, you know, that it's the product, right? And this is what an empath is. They're somebody that feels things, and they, you know, are super sensitive to things, and people label that as what an empath is. And I would like to challenge you with a different viewpoint. I view that as the byproduct of what an empath is. What an empath is, and a lot of you aren't going to like this, but I want you to think about this, okay? What an empath is an individual who has very bad boundaries. And so this is why psychically and even emotionally, we are sympathetic in ways that maybe are not necessarily the most healthy for us, which is why we're always in a Three of Swords energy, right? It's not healthy to always be in this energy. And so one of the things that you're being asked to do here is you're being asked to understand the power to loose and the power to bind. Hierophant. This is the lesson, right? What I mean by this is, how far should you be extending, and how far should other people be able to extend into you? Some of you, it's not even so much other people overextending, it's you overextending, and you have to learn the difference. One thing that I find in immature versions of the empath, again, that's not to be derogatory. Everyone, you know, we all start somewhere. We all start as an immature version. And is that they don't necessarily understand that they have bad boundaries towards other people as well. It's much easier to spot when it's happening to you because you're the one that's hurt, or you're the one that feels uncomfortable, or you're the one that feels a certain way. It's much harder to see when you're making other people feel that way, right? I notice that a lot of immature empaths will hear other people say, I feel this way, and because it's something they don't like, they lash out. And so this is an overextension of your own like space, right? You're taking up more space in that particular area, whereas there are more appropriate areas to take up space. For example, saying what you mean, saying how you feel when you feel that way, learning to communicate your needs and your no, right? Learning to say no. Those are more appropriate ways to take up space than, for example, demanding that a person treat you a certain way or that they feel a certain way about you, right? So that seems to be a very big lesson that someone is learning right now. For some of you, you're learning when to leave, that you stay too long, or that you let people stay too long. So for example, I get a lot of comments on my channel from people who say, you know, I'm an empath, so I'm always trying to be open to people and they always take from me. Generally, before a thing happens that is like this climax point between you and other people, generally before that, there's lots of red flags, and there's lots of yellow flags, and there's lots of orange flags. And what an empath will do is they will actually ignore all of those flags, because what if I'm wrong about that person? And sometimes it's because they don't really realize that they don't deserve that behavior from another person, right? So they're used to it. And sometimes it's just, they think that that's just normalized. And so someone here, you've been on a very long path of learning when to cut people out of your life, or when to shut the door on certain connections. If you're the kind of person that you don't think that it's appropriate to cut people out of your life, then you're definitely struggling with boundaries. You're definitely struggling with boundaries, especially if you're someone who feels that way and yet you feel that you always attract narcissists. There's definitely something to examine there. The reason why I'm seeing that is because I'm seeing a little bit of that energy here, okay? When an empath learns to really have better boundaries, and they learn to let go of the people that they love that continuously put them in a Three of Swords energy, they drastically improve their life. And that's when healing can start to happen. And what an empath will find is that there's a lot of formative year challenges that they have to kind of overcome and heal from, right? So here with the Hierophant going up into the Five of Pentacles, a big energy that's showing up as something that needs to be healed from is abandonment, being left alone, being ignored, being silenced. So this is something that is trying to heal for somebody. And so right now, this up and down that someone is experiencing, that you're trying to find balance with, try to exert that extra effort into removing situations from your life that consistently put you in this energy. Now, there's certain relationships where maybe that's not necessarily appropriate, right? And I'm about to say something, and please don't take it as a broad-ranging statement, but for some of you, you may feel that doing that with your family, for example, is inappropriate. And that's okay, that's valid. But if you are talking about like your love relationships or your friends, and they're constantly putting you in this energy, I would definitely rethink that, right? So definitely think about what relationships it is that you need. Is it a fear of being alone that keeps you connected to people? Is it some idea that you have about how they'll be devastated and their life will be ruined without you? And kind of think about what you're really saying in that situation, right? When your priority is other people's happiness but not your own, there's something going on there. So this message is basically coming through to tell somebody that this up and down that you're experiencing, these highs and lows that you're experiencing, you may be trying to tackle those highs and lows on their own, but really there's other things in the periphery and other ways that we're giving our energy away, or in some cases stealing energy from people, that needs to be addressed before these highs and lows can become balanced. So this is a tough message. I know it's a tough message, especially if you're resonating with this. So if you're going through this, just know you're not alone. There's a lot of people on this channel I know had to go through these lessons. And if you've had to go through these lessons, share it inside the comments so that the people who are actually going through these lessons can see that other people have too. So whoever's message this is, I wish you the best of luck with this. This is something that you can navigate. You absolutely can navigate it. It's just how often and how much you're willing to choose yourself is going to dictate whether or not you're going to be able to do this quicker than the pace that I'm seeing here. So if this resonates with you, feel free to like this video. Feel free to leave me a comment. And until next time.